Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming back to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my kitchen, where we're going to have a conversation today about 5 things that you need to ask your partner before you commit. So this is February, it's the month of love. We've been talking about money and relationships and financial compatibility, as well as other things like money and marriage. So we're in that place now where we want to talk about you who are not married and you've found a partner who you want to you kind of like. So let's say you've been dating him for about 4, 5, 6 months. You're in a place where you're like, yes, I really like this guy. But we got to find out whether he is financially compatible with you. Is he the kind of person that you want to spend the rest of your life with? Well, I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks to find out about this person. So before I do that, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So I met my partner a long time ago. We've been married for a few decades now. And as we were dating and we were getting to this place of thinking that we're going to get married, he asked me what I thought about savings. It was a hilarious response because I told him I don't believe in saving at the time. And he was like, what? So we had to have a really in-depth conversation before we decided to move forward about how we thought money should work and about savings. And that really changed my life. So thank you, darling. Let's dig in to these 5 questions that I would encourage you to ask somebody before you commit to having a long-term relationship or marriage with them. So the first one is, ask them this: if you received £10,000 tomorrow, how would you spend it? If you received £10,000 tomorrow, how would you spend it? So that's the first thing you want to ask him. And listen, when you ask that question, it's an open question. Listen to his answer. If he talks about putting down a down payment for a car, or if he talks about things that are not aligned with you, this should help you to see if this is someone that you're financially compatible with. If, however, he comes back to you and says, I will take that and invest it, or I'd put it in stocks and shares, or I will invest it in a business, well, hello, Mr. Man. We are liking you already. Okay. And be ready to teach that person. Not everyone's going to be at the same level that you are at financially. You're watching this video because you're interested anyway in money, but not everyone is at that place. So take your time and see if you can coach them into understanding better ways to spend that £10,000 should it hit their account today. The next question we want to ask is, do you have financial obligations that I need to know about? Do you have financial obligations that I need to know about? Now, that's a really interesting question. So, for example, I know of a couple that we counseled a long time ago, and one of them was saying, she went into this relationship not understanding that this young person that she was dating actually told his mom not to work and was responsible for her 100% financially. So that can be something that can be challenging. It's a conversation worth having. So what kind of financial obligations does this person have? Do they have debt that they need to pay? Are there things that they need to clear? It's worth having that conversation so you can understand what you're getting into. All right. The third one is, and this is a really interesting one, what is your financial DNA? What is your financial DNA? What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, how did your parents handle money? Was money a source of stress to your parents? Was it a cause for contention? Did they borrow? Did they discuss things before they bought them? Right? I've heard stories of people who would go out and buy a car and come home and say, ta-da, I got a car. No, that's not what we want to do. We want to be able to have a discussion and say, okay, well, this is where we are. This is how much that car will take out of our pocket if we're not buying it cash, etc. So what is their financial DNA? What do they understand money to mean? What is their money story? How did they get into even thinking about money? What have they done in the past that has got them to where they are today financially, negative or positive? Those are conversations worth having, right? And it's important to understand their perspective of money so that that DNA can either be dealt with or you can discuss ways to work around it, okay? So what is your financial DNA is question number 3. Question number 4, what do you think about a prenup? I hear you laughing, I hear you screaming. I'm not going to sign a prenup, and I'm not encouraging you to do that. However, This question tends to bring out of people a lot about how they think about money. So we're not saying we're going to sign a prenup, and you're not going to preempt the conversation by saying, I'm not signing a prenup with you, but you do want to understand exactly what people are talking about and how they think about money when they talk about a prenup. Now, I have someone in my life who decided to get married and asked her spouse to sign a prenup. And he said, absolutely, I have no problem with it. I don't intend to leave this marriage, but should I choose to leave this marriage, I don't intend to take anything with me that I did not bring to it. How cool was that? I thought that was a man of integrity, and it really made my day when I heard that back. So how do they think about a prenup? What are their perspectives? This gives you insight into how people think about these things. Okay, so it's very, very important that you have that conversation. It's not something you necessarily need to have a fight over, but it's worth listening. So remember, ask these questions and listen. See what the answers might be. Number 5, what are your financial goals for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? What are your financial goals for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Now, I didn't have the insight to ask this question when we were dating, but I wish I had. Not that I regret, but I would love to have known my husband's position when we started dating, right? I kind of found out as the time went by, and we do have open and honest conversations about money and our financial goals. But I feel like the earlier you can set a goal, the better. So the earlier you can have this conversation, the better, because that way you can align your goals to ensure that you're getting to the right place. So for example, if someone says to you, I want to retire early and I want to be able to have X amount in the bank. Well, you know that person is a saver. You know that person is likely to be investing money. So it's important for you to have that conversation and ask the questions. It's not going to hurt. Okay. And the earlier you start, the better. So the earlier in the relationship that you can align your goals, the better. So that was my 5 questions, but I have one more question. I have a bonus question. I want to give you to ask that potential spouse. And that is, how do they feel about financial chores? How do they feel about financial chores? For example, who handles the paying of certain bills? Okay, if they're not on direct debit, who handles those bills? Who does the shopping and who allocates that amount of money towards the shopping? Because those are all financial chores, whether you believe it or not. Budgeting, paying bills, shopping, etc. Those are all things that you need to know who can do those things. When I got married, I asked my husband, I said to him, who will do the chores in the house? Like, who's going to vacuum, etc. And he was like, we'll figure it out as we go along. And literally we did. But when it comes to financial chores, it's important to ask yourself the question, who's going to handle this? Who's better at juggling a budget? Who is the best person when it comes to allocating money and changing money where things need to be adjusted? Who's the person who's most on their feet, who will track changes to the budget, right? So for example, when all of our gas bills went up, who noticed it first? It wasn't me, it was him. So those are conversations that you want to be able to have, so that when you get into a long-term relationship with this person, should you choose to do so, you know who's going to be handling those things. It's not going to be left in the air. Why? Because when you don't assign a task, it doesn't necessarily get done. So when a task is assigned to someone, it's good. It's a good thing. So who does those financial chores? Definitely ask that question so that you guys can actually be on the same page. Don't feel as though this is something that will never change. So for example, if someone has to pay a bill manually every month, it doesn't have to be that person every single day. You could switch it up every 3 months, every 6 months, so that you guys are in a place of contentment and that you both have the experience of doing certain things. So I would recommend that you switch up financial chores as well. Should you go into that relationship, first and foremost, you want to ask the question, how do they feel about doing those financial chores? Because you don't want it to rest all on your shoulders. You want to be able to share it. Okay, so those are 5 questions plus a bonus question for you guys who might be a little younger, looking into those relationships, trying to understand where your potential partner is financially. Ask the questions and stop and listen to the answers. Don't just listen with your heart because you're in love. Listen with your ears and listen with your mind so that you can absorb that information and understand the next steps that you have to take. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying to the end of this video. Again, It's February, the month of love. We're going to be talking about money and relationships all throughout before we move on to March. But I hope that these messages, these discussions have actually been of help to you. And if they have, I'd like you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and of course, share this video with someone who you think would benefit from asking these questions of their potential spouse or partner. So guys, have a fantastic day, and I will see you on the next one.